Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and welcome back to my review for chapter 227 of Tokyo Revengers. If you guys are new around here and want to keep up to date with the latest reviews for not only Tokyo Revengers, but also just other anime content in general, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. But anyway, enough of that, let's get into this video. So chapter 227 starts off, and it looks like throughout this entire chapter we kind of get the backstory on Terano and where he's originated from, and it finally gives us an actual understanding of why he uses so much Portuguese or like Italian language. I'm not really too sure obviously on which one it is, but seeing that he grew up as Terano Minami in the slums of Brazil, I would assume that it's probably Portuguese, as everyone in Brazil does speak Portuguese from memory. And while he was in these slums in Brazil, he used to live with his bedridden mother, and his only source of entertainment was an old, out-of-tune piano. So that's obviously where he's gotten his entire like musical theme that he has for his character, as it's obviously his source of entertainment. And while he beats people, he seems to, like play a tune or like play some kind of music in his head as he does it, because I guess it's entertaining for him in some kind of way then. While he lived in Brazil, a man named Dino used to take care of his mother. As Minami was a foreign child, Dino taught him how to live in the favelas. And around the age of 5, Dino teaches him how to actually be violent, and he hands him like a gun, and he murders all of Dino's enemies for him, and only at the age of 5. So obviously Terano's life has just been absolutely brutal. Growing up in the favelas in Brazil, I think, just goes to show in general that he's growing up in an absolutely different world from the majority of everyone else in Japan. Everyone in Japan is kind of growing up in more or less a better society than what Terano has grown up in. He doesn't know any different by the looks of it. To me, this is just something that he thinks must be normal, as he's been raised to do this by the looks of it. And after Terano ends up killing these guys for Dino, Dino gives him the name South. So that's where officially he takes the name of South, and we find out that Dino was the king of the town. He was a gangster. So obviously he's like the leader of a gang in the favelas in Brazil. So I'm wondering if there's a bunch of different gangs throughout like the favelas in Brazil. I don't think we'll learn too much more about it, but I imagine that Dino probably ruled the entire area, and it's hyping up Terano here to be someone that is absolutely insane. And I also want to point out something that's extremely interesting as well. The fact that Terano obviously has the exact same tattoo that Dino has on his neck. It's even on the exact same side that he has it on and everything. So I'm wondering if he's got it as a remembrance thing for him, as he was someone who helped raise him throughout his early childhood. But at age 12, Terano ends up brutally murdering and killing Dino while he was lying in his bed in town. And he was crying while he was doing this entire thing. So obviously, I wonder why he's done this. This was someone who's raised him throughout his entire life and, given him these opportunities. So I wonder, why exactly he's resorted to killing Dino here. And then at the age of 12, he succeeded Dino and became the tyrant Terano Minami, who was the leader of the gang Dino South, boss Terano Minami, aka South. So obviously the name of the gang was Dino South. So I'm wondering if the name had changed after Terano took a hold or took leadership of the Dino gang and changed it to Dino South, or I'm wondering if the gang was called Dino South beforehand and Dino had just initially given the nickname of South to Terano and kind of made the gang for both of them in a way, I guess you could say. I don't really think that's the truth. Maybe he just named him out of the fact that that's the other part of his gang, but I'm really not too sure on the whole Dino South type gang. Was it like a partnership name type thing that they had going on there? I love this entire panel that we get of him walking down the street with his bodyguards who look in their mid-20s at least, while he's this 12-year-old smoking a cigarette with a gun just tucked down, by the front of his pants there. And he's absolutely huge. For a 12-year-old, he does not look 12. This is the biggest character by far in the entire story that we have seen. 100%, there's no doubt about it. Terano is something else when it comes to strength. And at the age of 14, we learn that an enemy gang raided Minami's house and took his mother's life. And so Minami, who had lost both of his parents, migrated back to Japan to live with his grandparents. So obviously because he was, half foreign, the other half of his family, or his mother's parents, lived in Japan. So that's where he's migrated back to, and that's how he ends up meeting the majority of the people from the Tenjiku gang that he takes under his wing as part of the Rokuhara Tandai. As when South first arrives back, he's in the juvenile detention institution, and there he officially meets all of the Tenjiku executives that had decided to go to juvie for what they had done. And obviously this actually kind of makes more sense now on why Sansu's actually killed Mucho at the end of the day, because obviously Mucho here, while Terano was inside of juvenile, has been able to get all of the old executives under his wing and create like a new gang. And then again, that leaves Mucho to be betraying the Tokyo Manji gang, or the Kanto Manji gang in this state. And that could also be the reason why Sansu ends up killing him almost immediately after he gets out of juvenile, because he already knew that at that point Muto had decided to join this new Rokuhara gang. That's just a thought as well. Obviously he betrayed Toman as well with joining Tenjiku and taking Sansu along with him there. So that's just another thought, and could be another reason as to why he was possibly cut down. And so obviously we're at the year 2008 now currently in the story, but in the year 2007, so pretty much a year in between Takemichi going back and where he is now, Minami was finally released, or Terano was finally released from juvenile. And on that same year or same day, he established the Rokuhara Tandai with the old executives from Tenjiku. After he leaves, he learns about Kikucho being the famed strongest man in Tenjiku, and he wants to try and get him under his wing as well. But Ran, one of the Hashani brothers, tells him that it'll be extremely hard for him to even get him on his side, as Kikucho wasn't really even a part of their team until Izana told him to be. So Ran obviously thinks it's going to be extremely hard for Terano to be able to take control of Kikucho here and take him under his wing. But Terano turns around and tells him, he's extremely good at negotiating, obviously with his fists. So in the next panel, the first thing we see is Terano's fist and him beating Kikucho up completely, with Kikucho telling Terano to wait and that he admits his defeat. So that's Kikucho finally joining Terano's gang there, and this is the kind of backstory and build up that we needed for Terano to kind of know how he came about, as it was kind of hard to know where he was from exactly, how he originated and how he has all this stigma and strength about him. So now it's so good to know, how exactly he's been able to get all of these super strong people under his wing. And I'm super happy that I said in my power scaling video that I thought it was quite obvious that Terano would have had to have been able to beat Kikucho in a fight to take him, into his clan, as Kikucho probably wouldn't have done so otherwise. So yeah, it's good to see finally some of Terano's backstory here being fleshed out, so that we have an understanding of how strong he actually is, as he is the unparalleled South when compared to the invincible Mikey. And from there, it actually skips back to the fight now, where it looks like Benkei and Wakasa have actually taken a little bit of damage and seem to be, a little bit out of breath as well. And Terano just standing there, not even damaged at all or out of breath, is asking them what's wrong and are you already tired? And Benkei, super happy with the fact that there's someone still strong around like this, has just got the biggest grin on his face. I think that's awesome. I hope Benkei is strong enough to be able to, fight Terano in a pretty good fight. But obviously Kikucho doesn't think so, as it flicks over to Kikucho afterwards. And Kikucho's like, the first generation Black Dragon's strongest duo. No matter how strong those two are, they'll never win against Terano South. He's a man of extreme violence, the man who easily defeated Tenjiku's executives, and that is where the chapter leaves us. So obviously the hype behind the fight that is going on at the moment between the two best fighters in all of the Black Dragons and the previous rulers of the Kanto district of Japan, Benkei and Wakasa, versus the man himself, Terano, which is absolutely insane. I can't wait to see what goes on next chapter. I hope we actually get to see some of the fight, as it's been skipped over a little bit here and we've gone back to maybe kind of a beginning or midpoint throughout the fight with Terano still on top, it looks like, in a 1v2. Currently, at least, anyway. I am suspecting that Wakasa and Benkei are actually going to lose here, as it's probably going to result in Takemichi somehow coming in and trying to fight this guy along with Senju and possibly some other people. I'm not really sure on how they're going to be able to defeat or stop him, as he seems like someone who will literally if he starts to lose, pull a gun out on someone and just shoot them, as that's, you know, like the kind of man that he is. He's grown up in a completely different world to every single other person in the story so far. No one else has grown up outside of Japan, it feels like, so having someone who grew up in the favelas, which has just been somewhere that he's seen blood and violence since the age of only 5 years old, I think it's, you know, completely understandable to see why he's a man of extreme violence. Whereas Mikey, it is understandable that he falls into his dark impulses for what happens to him, only being extremely young when he first sees death and everything. But still, I don't think it's on the exact same level of how bad Terano's childhood could have possibly actually been. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think of the chapter, and obviously where you think it'll be heading next week. This chapter is super good. Obviously, I've been going on about like how stoked I am to finally get some of Terano's flashback or Terano's backstory, as he's this mysterious character. So I can't wait to see possibly more of Senju's backstory, see what she's possibly done in the past, and how she's, you know, gotten this aura about her and been able to create the Brahmin gang. As honestly, it's still all up in the air on how that's actually all gone down and happened. Obviously, I think Akashi has probably like started the gang with the idea of putting her as the figurehead, but that's just my initial thoughts at the moment. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys all think down in the comment section below, and if you are new around here and want to keep up to date with the latest Tokyo Revengers content and just other anime content in general, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really helps out with the algorithm and pushes my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. But anyway, enough of that. For now, it's been your professional degenerate, Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.